Thrilling win last week. Chris, what's the week on the track been like heading into the GWS game?
Oh, thanks for recognising that. I know you were shattered. No, we've had a good week, but again, we're always striving for consistency. I know it's a boring message, but look, there's no doubt you can't run away from the fact that there is a bit of a letdown following those sort of games, big crowd, close game. Probably took a little bit out of the fact that Collingwood were able to rebound so quickly, 5-day break and play so well in Perth. So clearly there are no excuses in terms of our preparation, and I feel like I'm saying it most weeks, but the challenges keep on coming. We've got a lot of respect for this opposition based on what they've been able to do in recent times, but over a longer period they've had a pretty good record of playing good footy down here, so we're aware of what we're in for.
What is that about GWS's record down here? One last forward they've been here.
The main thing with all these things, again, I tend to take a pretty boring, non-theatrical approach to these things. It's generally because they've been a good team, which is obvious. And then if you go back a long time, these things generally, in my opinion, are quirks rather than patterns. Like, we certainly don't look back to 2020 and reflect on how we played then with different personnel. It's so different. So again, I think the most relevant thing is what they've been able to do at times in the last 12 months especially, and they've had patches where, at least to my observation, they've been, if not the best couple of teams in the comp.
Chris, you brought Jet Hughes, and I suspect the fact that he was able to stay on his feet while he rehabbed the hand has given him that fitness base that makes you comfortable to come straight to the AFL team.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have a set template when it comes to long-term injured guys coming back. It's always the individual specifics that trump any kind of systematic approach that we have. But it's true to say he had a finger injury, which meant he could run very quickly, a matter of days post-surgery. So he's actually in really good shape. We feel like we're bringing a fresh player in who's ready to play well, as opposed to one that has missed quite a bit of footy, even though that is the reality.
Brian obviously tipped off everything that he needs to at the right time.
Yeah, so Brian, it was a little bit of a surprise to me that he was unavailable last week. And again, I'm repeating myself, but I just get the outcome when it comes to those things and don't get too bogged down in the process or why it happened. But again, he was looking like he was going to play until late in the week, and then something happened to rule him out. He's had a really good week on the track, and yeah, he's good to go, which is probably, well, it is really why Wiltshire's gone out. We just a forward coming in, and yeah, it was more. We were really happy with Ollie and sort of looking forward to him getting his third game in a row, but we were just a bit heavy for forwards, which is why we made that decision.
Will he play in the VFL, or will you carry him over?
No, he'll play some minutes. So yeah, we're still a little undecided as to exactly how we go about it. But again, the sort of quirks of a VFL curtain raiser, trying to balance guys that might not have played much footy over the last few weeks, and there's a few of them because we've had to carry guys over. But no, suffice to say, we'd like to get some footy at least into those players in the curtain raiser.
Did Danger have a bit of a lighter week on the track after a Herculean effort, or how's he been?
No, he's pretty good at the moment. We're always conscious of managing the workload of our more experienced players, but I guess the best reference point I have is this time last year, where he had some injuries, and he's squeaky clean now in terms of his body, which hasn't always been the case. So if anything, he's relishing a little bit more work.
It was good to see Gary Ablett in the rooms after the game on Saturday, and I saw him and Ollie Dempsey playing some golf through the week as well. Can you take us a bit inside him and Ollie's relationship? But then also must have been great to have him back in the rooms as well.
Yeah, I actually can't. It sounds, I didn't know they played golf, so you know more than I do. Yeah, I'm aware they've got a relationship, and we all think so highly of Junior, and I know Ollie really appreciates the time that he gets to spend with him. It's probably like, when I was a kid and Lee Matthews was sort of my coach. It's like you just relish every minute you can get with those sort of people. But in terms of taking inside their relationship, no, I'm not close enough to it.
Just with Tom, how was that the early cautious? Just not to not being to play, do you expect him to be on track for the round after?
I'll be very surprised if Tom Stewart's not available next week. No, it wasn't an early call. Again, it's a bit too complicated for me to elaborate on in an educated way. I think the takeaway for everyone, and this is kind of where I get to, we think it's best to be more conservative with him and have him play only when he's really right to go. And again, I think I touched on it last week and I've felt this way for a long time, and internally our sort of teams, our medical team, our performance team, our coaching team have been edging towards this kind of model of being a little bit more conservative and thinking about not thinking about these things in terms of whether it's possible that they could play, because I suspect Tom could get out there and play, but we're putting more of a priority, especially on our guys who are getting towards, and Tom's got a lot of footy left in him, so it's not as if he's at the end of his career, but we just don't think it's right to have those guys out there too often when they're less than their physical best. So in my mind, this is a pretty conservative play, but the right one for our team in the medium term.
With the gift of hindsight, would you have given him maybe 2 or 3 weeks off after the initial PCL sort of injury and aggravation?
His PCL's not the issue, so no. But it's, again, I would understand. Again, this is one where the detail in and around it, I could give you a pretty good answer, but there's a chance I get some of it wrong. And again, I don't think it is our responsibility to walk you through all the nuances of his private medical situation. I know you understand that as well, but it is important to say that this is not a recurrence of his PCL issue. He does have a little bit of a sore knee. So the stuff I'm talking about, it's not as if guys don't play a bit sore. Like if we said everyone's got to be perfect and squeaky clean every week, we'd put out 7 players. You know, that's just not the reality of the AFL environment. But guys that, you know, do have some sort of ongoing issues. And look, I'll give you an example. I normally don't elaborate this much. Jeremy Cameron, I'm going to say it was in the 23 season, sort of played through quite a severe kind of AC issue that he ended up having surgery on. Now, just up to me, and it's not my decision, but my input would be with our medical staff that in those sort of situations, we'd be happy from a football coaching perspective to take an extra couple of weeks to get that a little bit better. Now, that's easy to say now. It's harder in the moment when you think that could be the difference between winning and losing the game, but hopefully that just gives you a bit of a feel to sort of the way we're thinking about these things. Because it can be, I get it, a bit frustrating when our impression was Tom wouldn't miss it all post the Carlton game, Mac? That's the timeline? And now he's going to miss 2. So that seems a bit different, but to the expectation, but hence the need for me to elaborate.
Chris, how did you stop the players getting distracted by the Willie Nolly case during the week? Or do you allow them to get distracted?
I just treat them like professionals. And I don't think they did get distracted at all, and certainly even if they did, I don't micromanage our players. They're professionals. You know, we're there to help them through it if they need it, but I think these things can become a bit self-fulfilling if you let them. All along our approach has been to respect our players' wishes. Again, they're not kids, and any of our players that were involved in this situation were pretty clear right from the start in that they wanted what they considered to be a private situation kept private. Now, the fact that it hasn't been this week, I'm assuming it's mildly annoying to them, but that's kind of the extent of it.
Can you shed any light on what was said at the time, and then also what did you make of the AFL's response? Was 1 match suspension sort of after he'd already withdrawn himself from the showdown?
Yeah, I didn't follow it too closely, to be honest, again, because of that emphasis that we have around respecting sort of our players' wishes on it. I don't know what was said, but that's deliberate. Again, like just trying to give you a bit of a feel for the relationship I have with the players. It's not as if they run to me and tell me every word, and I don't go asking for it either. We're there to help them if they need it. But again, I don't think anything's changed for us in 12 months. We thought it was a private issue, and that would have been the preference. Now, sometimes that's impossible. So in terms of the way the AFL handled it, I couldn't comment in a way that would add any thing to the conversation because I just haven't followed it closely enough.
On that though, so do we now have to be a bit more careful what's said on the field as opposed to off the field? Is that blurred, or is that the same sort of scenario?
No, I suspect, and I've been briefed, I haven't heard a lot of it, but my suspicion is that that's what made this one different. Now again, I'm parroting what I've heard from other people. I haven't heard it directly from the horse's mouth. I'm not even really across what happened with the Bulldogs sort of situation, but if the question is something that happens on field in the heat of the moment different to something that might be 24 hours later in a text message or on social media, yeah, I think it's been acknowledged that those two things are different.
Was it frustrating, obviously not across the whole week, but is it frustrating when you have someone like Bailey Smith getting fined for flipping the bird, and then that initial one was that nothing was made of it, and then obviously back with, but is that frustrating to kind of see those two parallels?
Yeah, I think I've been pretty forthright on my opinion there, but again, I'd stress that it's my opinion. I'm not standing here saying I'm right and they're wrong. If it were up to me, and this is kind of the way we run our operation, we don't fine players. I get you need to have some penalties at a societal level. You can't just never fine anyone for going 2Ks over the speed limit. It's difficult when you're trying to manage 25 million people, but we're managing 50. The AFL have a few more, so it's a bit harder for them. But no, this punitive approach to justice doesn't generally make that much sense to me.
Just going to ask about Jasmine. Is that a recurrence of the groin issue that he had earlier?
No, it's just he's just been managing it on an ongoing basis. And again, this fits squarely in the category of if we've got to wait an extra week or 2 or 3 to have him really well prepared, we're going to take it. So these things, and this is why I suspect there's some frustration around the timelines. And no one's more frustrated than Jake himself. I know what it's like to be chronically injured. You want someone to say this is going to be 3 weeks to the day, and it just doesn't work that way. There are going to be ups and downs. So it looked like he was going to be right to play. In fact, we were seriously considering bringing him straight back into our senior team, and he's just pulled up a little bit sore here and there. And again, I generally don't go into this sort of detail, but I will in this situation. He was going really well, looking like he was going to have a really good session, woke up with a back spasm. So sort of unrelated, but if you've ever had pelvis lower back issues, nothing's unrelated down there. It's all pretty interrelated. So right at the moment, it's a little bit more his back than his groin, but we're confident it'll be short term, which means 2 weeks. No, I don't know what it means.
Can I ask you about Jay Polkinghorne? Obviously, he's in the squad for tomorrow. From an outside perspective, it means it's probably pretty close. Is that a fair assumption that he's doing some good things?
Yeah, it is. But again, in the context that we felt like we had to leave Wiltshire out because we had a lot of forwards available and in the mix this week. So Jay's another forward, so it's not as if there are lots of spots available in the team for that type of player, but it's not just his VFL form. We've really liked the way he's trained against our AFL defenders. There's a lot there to like. So yeah, he's edging closer. But as I've said to you a few times, Kingy, I don't think it would be fair on him to keep talking about him week after week, because he is a couple of steps away from being picked. I'll give you the heads up when he's a bit closer.
Any plans for Mother's Day tomorrow on game day with some of the mums?
I'll just make sure I ring my mum. Yeah, just that's the number one priority. So, which means I'm about a 50-50 chance of remembering. But I'll do my best. And
did you see any of a bit of a social media storm with some of the players? Earlier in the week, I think it was, where the AFL released the player ratings for the new AFL game, and in the speed category, I think it was Tyson Stengel was number 2 in the game.
Okay. Zach
Guthrie was number 7, and Max Holmes was absolutely ropeable that he was outside the top 10.
Oh, well, I mean, you lost me at social media, but the last bit makes perfect sense to me that Holmesy would be ropeable. Yeah, so he's outside the top 10 of our team.
No, in the league, so.
Okay, well, Holmes is very confident that he's number 1. If he needs me to fix that up for the record, I'm happy to. But no, I didn't follow any of that. But if Holmes is not whinging about that, it'll be something else.